I don't think what some people can understand is when you go back to somewhere where you really want to be, you know, you might not ever get that chance again. So I had to push it as much as I could. We lost a few games that we should have won. I never had any problems with any of the players, but I just felt that their eyes were on different things at different times. I managed to move a couple out here, there and everywhere. But it was a real taking stock, rebuild sort of period, even from day one. And there were always going to be hangovers from different things. And it got really tight at the end, to be honest. You know, I think we went to Norwich not knowing what was going to happen. We were in a strong position, or a stronger position than you would probably think it was, seeing as you're sitting in that chair sort of thing. But we had the reports out from Newcastle what was going on with Palace, as it turned out. So we knew they were losing the game. And we came away comfortably, as it felt afterwards anyway, comfortably afterwards, with staying in the division, which was the most important thing. You know, you walk through the door and the players that were there were really, really great players, you know, and really talented. And you wondered why it wasn't really working. Ron Atkinson, great manager, brilliant bloke, you know, the sort of fella who you know, I would suggest would be the complete opposite of myself, sort of thing, you know. And I knew his mannerisms, and I felt, well, how am I going to inflict myself on lads who really have had a manager who's larger than life. So that was the first little thing that I had to look at. I don't know, I just felt that after even 2 or 3 games, there were great players, good players, but they just lost their way a little bit, you know, and there was opportunities out there in that period. You could still do transfers through the season, of course. So I always thought there was opportunities for me to help them continue their career, but at a different place, you know. And I think they all recognised that was my actual job as soon as I came in, sort of thing. And you know, it was fine to start with. I remember we lost. It was Crystal Palace beat us, and Gareth Southgate scored 2 goals against me. And I remember after that game, sitting down in the dressing room and saying, right, I've watched you for 2 or 3 games now. It's not what I want. Which is not an easy thing to say for a young manager, you know, in front of, you know, some real superstars. I said, and we're going to have to start doing it my way now. So I'm going to completely change the system here. We're going to work at it. If it doesn't work to start with, I have to try and make it work, and I'll have to try and find players to make it work. So I guess I made it clear to everyone that, you know, if they didn't fit in the system, they were going to move out. And once I started bringing people in, like Ian Taylor was one of the first signings, and then young Tommy Johnson and a young Gary Charles.
I'd come around the new year and just about stayed up that previous season, and we were buzzing for the next season because there were signings coming in. You know, Mark Draper, Gary Charles, Tommy Johnson, and they're all great characters as well, and we got on like a house on fire, and we all became good mates straight away, which was brilliant.
I remember telling Mr. Ellis, I said, I found a left-footed centre forward that I was very interested in. I've said this to a lot of people, that Ron Saunders and Tony Barton, I'm not going to miss Tony out of this because he was vital in that recruitment area. The 2 best teams I saw around, including myself that I played in, was with Andy Gray, as a left-footed centre forward, and Peter Withens, Gary Shaw was perfect left-footed centre forward. And Peter's often said, Ron thought that I might get fit again to give myself a chance, but that's by the by. Gary and Peter were a fantastic partnership. So I was desperately looking for a left-footed young centre forward who had a reputation, but not a reputation that everybody would know of. And in those days, we didn't have film or we hadn't been abroad to watch players play. But I was sent a video by an agency in London, and it was about Milosevic. So I quickly tried to find out who the right contacts might be to ask about him, because Savo was the only person I never saw actually play live that I'd signed, really. And I spoke to Terry Venables, who I knew was a real connoisseur on football. And he said to me, I've seen this lad play, and he's decent. He's strong. He's got a lot going from being scoring a lot of goals where he was. And he recommended that it was something that I should worth chasing. So I chased it, and when I said to Doug we were going to Belgrade, he sort of smiled at me. And when we got in the aeroplane and took off, he said, that there is a lot of trouble going on in the Yugoslavian states at this moment, which I knew nothing about, being just a football person. But yeah, we had a really weird time there, because we went out at night time and all the lights on the street lights were off. The car that was driving us around didn't have lights on. They weren't really supposed to be out and about. So it was quite scary, really. And we came back with Savo, which was the initial thing. But yeah, it was a scary few days, to be honest. I mean, everybody was saying, you don't go out, you can't go out. But we were being taken out to meet the representatives of the Belgrade club. And it was all in a quiet, darkened room, and it was, well, not that there was light in the room, but getting there was quite scary, to be honest. Yeah, it was. But there was Doug loved it. I mean, he thought it was great. It's another
spy.
Yeah, well, yeah, he became a spy. I mean, he'd probably tell everybody that he was. No, it was incredible, and I got that. So that was a great signing for me, and it worked really well. I thought their partnership was fantastic, and I always wanted Draper. I signed Mark the year before at Leicester, and I didn't wait to see that through, but I always thought he was going to be a good player. Tommy and Gary Charles, I remember well from beating him in the playoff final. Tommy was a good finisher. When he was one-on-one, he very rarely missed a one-on-one finish with a keeper. And Gary was a little bit of a Rolls Royce. He was a bit easy on himself. I could see and I fancied them as the wing back. Little Alan Wright, if I go on to him, the amount of people that we used to, like olden days, it's really old-fashioned this, but used to have your work on the team would be on like A4 pieces of paper, and the number of times at the end of the game, teams would just throw their piece of paper in the corner. And I used to say to the young apprentices, when you go in, if there's any paper on the floor, bring it to me, I want to have a look at it. So they'd often bring scrunched up paper, and you could see then they'd say, Alan Wright, yes, stick balls at the far post because he's tiny. He can, and you'll, and he used to, but when they did that, he was jumping higher than anybody, little Righty. So we used to, I mean, it's so silly now, you wouldn't imagine it because of all of the technology that's in the modern game today. But even we would do that. I used to get 4 pieces of A4 paper from the scout who'd written because a lot of the players football wasn't 100% on television at that time. The featured games were, but often the players would say, what does he play like? And I know he does this and that. And I'd say, well, just read this little report. And it might just be so simple, saying weakness is the left side going down the outside of him, weakness is the inside, or try playing against him. It's so basic, and you relied on your team that you built, really, how they played. And we had a plan A. We had plan Bs, obviously, but that was very rarely we got into that. But yeah, we would often learn a little bit about ourselves, what the opposition were thinking about us by the paper that the manager or whoever had just scrunched up and thrown in the corner, and thought, I can't be bothered with that anymore. But that's 30 odd years ago, and that's how things were in those days. And I would imagine I did exactly the same sometimes, to be honest, So I'm not saying I was cleverer than anybody else, to be honest. I always wanted to be 3 at the back. I'd won 2 championships with Darlington with 3 players at the back. I took Leicester to 3 playoff finals and eventually got him into the playoff, into the Premier League, playing 3 centre backs. I still think if you've got the right players, it's a great system. And we had the players that could do it even in the thing, but I think we needed freshness. I'd played 3 centre backs for quite a spell towards the end of the season. It might not have been as good because I needed the right player in the right place at the right time, and a lot of players that I were playing actually knew they were leaving before long, so that never put me off that the system was wrong. All the players, it just, there's the mentality really. But the lads who came in fitted perfectly to it. We always said, don't forget, you say 3 at the back, and this is a sentence that I can jump on straight away. We always said, yeah, 3 centre backs, but we're 5 at the back. We didn't play 3-5-2. We played 5-3-2. And there is a mentality that actually changes what you're thinking of. So straight away, I always thought if we made ourselves hard to beat and we had the right players going forward, we would do well. Ron Saunders did exactly this. Ron Saunders never ever had Andy Gray and myself until the last 10 minutes of a training session join the team. He would always work his midfield players and his defenders against the reserve team for 30 minutes every Thursday, Friday, Wednesdays and Thursdays he would do that. And they got used to not giving anything away. Then the last 10 minutes he'd say, right, you two, come on in. And, we'd generally score a couple of goals. But he marshalled his team on not giving things away. And that stuck with me forever, even though I was probably the one person, along with Andy, who never really enjoyed training because we would just have him sitting on the sidelines half the time. So I didn't work at that especially. I just wanted to have a team that didn't want to lose games. But I wanted to have, I thought Dwight was the ideal player for that, and Savo became another one because they both of them could run all day. Both of them were strong, and Yorkie was exceptionally strong and talented. Him and a ball coming at him, at that time, I don't think there was anybody who could hold off defenders and twist and turn them as well as he was. I thought he was right up there with the best. And Savo was so underrated, it was untrue. And even laughed at it sometimes by people. But, in our team and in our dressing room, they loved him. He was a workhorse. He was a good lad. He could do things and saw little passes that people will not appreciate. No, so he was right. And I worked tirelessly at, the system, making sure that our wing backs, when they were playing forward, they didn't go too far ahead of the ball very often. People might not have noticed that because we were quite adventurous, really. And then I wanted my box-to-box midfield player, Ian Taylor, he's just incredible, Ian. Andy, who could talk, but Andy was a forward-thinking midfield player. Before I came there, he thought he was the one who was doing box-to-box, but I just curtailed him a little bit of that. And then Draper come in as a talent, like young Sid Cowans, didn't really know how good they were, but they were good, and it gelled quicker than I could ever have imagined. Gareth was, Gareth. I bought Gareth to play midfield, to be honest. I was thinking about Andy. I was thinking about whether Andy's legs were good enough. And I can't, I've spoken to Gareth about this, or Sir Gareth, I should say now, a few times. And I just remember one game just dropping him back into the back three. And John Gregory and Alan Evans, within 5 minutes, were just tapping me on the shoulder going, have you seen Gareth? And I'm going, because I was actually interested in Coleman. I can't think of his, Chris Coleman, who was his best mate at Palace. I was thinking of that as an option if Gareth was going to be a midfield player. but I didn't need it. We found that in pre-season that we didn't need it. We didn't really advertise our pre-season. We did most of our work at the training ground, and we did most of our work away from the bright lights. We didn't want people seeing us. And as I said, it's a silly thing to say, but we just didn't take any notice of very many people, or I didn't, I should say, which is typical of me, to be honest. And it could not have sunk in better than it did do. We were determined to make a step forward from where we'd been, and you know, and I'd moved on a lot of really good players who were wanted by really good clubs. Let's face it. So we went into the Man United game, which was the opening game of the season, and I think that probably gave us a little bit of a surprise, really.
Going into that season, and to start the season so well as well, having a fixture like Man United at home was a massive game for us, and to win and beat them the way that we did on the day was just fantastic.
You know, we went in at half time 3-0 up, but we all sat in there, and the conversation was, hang on, this is a good team we're playing against. We really were, you know, we're 3-0 up, and like, yes, we played well, but we genuinely felt that they were a really good club, and well, they were a good club, but a really good team.
You won't win nothing with kids game, that was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Alan Hansen and his famous phrase, and managed to poke one in as well, which was amazing. And young David Beckham scored against us as well on that day. And yeah, it was a Man United team that was going through a little bit of a transition with the young players coming through. But anytime you can beat Man United, it's a massive game, isn't it? And I think it started off the season superbly in front of our own fans.
The starting lineup with one or two of the lads who hadn't played. The first game at home we won 6-0. Yeah, we won 6-0, and then because you play home and away in them times, and so when we played away, that was probably the first time in that season that we sort of chopped and changed the team a little bit. Played the same system, but. Yeah, it was a great result, the first one. It gave us an opportunity to breeze through the second leg, which we did do, and we were happy with that. But it gave us an opportunity, the first leg as well, to go out there and just show people what we were about. And the nice thing was there was one free kick which John Gregory worked at on training. I'm not sure whether it's legal now or anything like that, because Andy Townsend was putting his foot underneath the ball and flicking it up, and I think Dreb had a touch on his thigh first, didn't he? Yeah, I can remember that touch on his thigh, and volleyed it in. But it might not. I mean, John loved all them sort of things. John. The problem with the lads of that era was they didn't really want to do free kicks. You know, they just wanted to play five-a-side and have a bit of football and then work at the system that we played on, and it was always in that era. It was always corners against corners for that. The lad just, oh God, do we have to do this sort of thing, you know? But John was really good and kept them on side, and it was perfect for him. He was great as an assistant at that time, because he really got in amongst the lads. Alan was very organised and disciplined and looked after everything that we needed to. John could get in amongst them and have a little bit of a laugh and a joke and everything. So that worked perfectly well for us. But yeah, the free kick, there was another one at Chelsea later on that I remember John being really good at. But which worked perfectly as well. But that one was a bit unique.
Yeah, it was a good start to the tournament for us. Peterborough, you always pray for nice easy draws, but come the day they're never easy. But we made it easy with the scoreline. Obviously, I can't remember why I didn't complete the game. I must have wanted to give Fenny some minutes, but no, we beat them quite easily in the end. When Gareth Southgate's getting on the score sheet as well, it becomes an easy game. But no, it's one of those where Yeah, first round, like you say, we got a bye, and then Peterborough, and made it quite easy for us in getting into the next round.
The Draper free kick?
Yeah, it's you know, a lot of stuff's made about free kick coaches and whatnot now, and we just had you know, the likes of Alan Evans, the likes of John Gregory, who'd come up with things, and Drapes, to be fair, had the technique to do something like that, and it's something that you've hardly ever seen since. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I thought it wouldn't be allowed today. You think because it's like a double touch, because the way you have to scoop the ball up, but you'd have to sort of bring your foot.
Yeah. I can see his point. Yeah, because Towner flicked it up onto. He flicked it up onto Drapes' thigh, didn't he?
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. It might not be legal today.
That was his thought about it.
Yeah, but they let it go, and it was a great free kick, and he's put it right in the top corner. It's superb. We were able to maybe cruise through that game a little bit and just get through it. Again, when you get the likes of Steve Staunton scoring, I love playing with Steve Staunton because he's the biggest moaner that you'll ever meet. But he kept people on the toes, and he's a vital part of the dressing room.
You know, I mean, I think as far as your early rounds in a cup competition go, you know, you can be unlucky and get one of the big boys or even one of the division below away from home at hard games, really hard.
Games like that, they're always sticky, and it's and teams like that make it difficult. I can't remember what division Stockport were in at the time.
2 leagues below.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
But I can vaguely remember it, and Big Hugo scoring again. He didn't get many, but when he did, they were quite important.
It was pretty good to us, and I don't think we were ever even at that stage thinking, oh, we can win this. I don't think we never really talked about things like that. We were pretty much each game as it comes, you know, just take it as it comes and let's see what happens. So it again felt very comfortable about the game itself, and we're happy to sort of breeze through, you know. But no, I don't think at that time any of us were saying, oh, we're going to win this. You know, I don't think that was there really.
No, sometimes you do think, with the games that we had, we didn't have a bad run through to the final, really. So, you know, Stockport at home, you'd take that every day, wouldn't you?
Queen's Park Rangers, again, it's an awkward game, but it's a game that you genuinely, you'd sit in the dressing room and say, right, look, we've got to do this properly. Nothing, we can't let anything drop. We're playing really well. We're doing everything well. I think it was fairly standard approach again. You know, we just wanted to win football matches, or I just didn't want to lose football matches. So when it becomes a cup game, you've got to win it, sort of thing. So I was more on league matches, very much saying, look, the one thing we don't want to do is let them score, because I'm confident we can score goals, and that even stretched into the League Cup itself. You know, we felt comfortable in what we had as strength. Not to give anything away, and we just felt we could score goals every game. We always felt we could score. Game, isn't it? So it's always a little bit. I felt we were a better team than them leading going into the game. I said, look, we are, but because you feel that, you have to make sure that the dressing room are aware of that. Doesn't give you the right to win the game. So it's always just that mentality side of things, isn't it? That you were with your players then. But but I trusted them and I believed in them, and I think we had this. We just had a really good feeling between us. So again, it's just a game that we felt we would have won by more. In all fairness, that was our belief in the dressing room beforehand. It turned out to be a little bit more awkward, but again, they had nothing to lose, and we had they're the sort of games that test your mentality and your desire and belief and all the little things that you need, and using your talent to win a game. So, but we won the game, not as comfortably as I thought we would have done, but we got through, which was nice.
I just remember the atmosphere was unbelievable, and like you say, I was coming back from injury. It's a game that I would have loved to have started, but hey ho. But yeah, TJ comes up with another one of his important goals, and he played a big part in that run to the final, to be fair. And yeah, squad-wise, there's a great togetherness in that squad, and Tommy pops up with another goal.
I remember thinking we'd got the hardest part of the draw, but I also felt that if it had been Birmingham, that again could have been a different hard type of game, because of the rivalry and all that. But Arsenal away first, and then to come back home, was a bit scary. I'd worked for Bruce Rioch, who was their manager at that time, at Middlesbrough for 3 years. He was massively influential on me as a person. He was a brilliant coach. We worked at Middlesbrough together. He took them from the 3rd division to the 2nd division, 2nd division to the 1st division. I learned so much off Bruce, it was untrue. And I had so much respect for him. I was quite... I think my confidence was tested, I think, because I genuinely look up to Bruce. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge to me, because he had a good team. It wasn't. I don't think it was a happy time for him. I don't think it went as well as he would have liked it to have gone. But I think it was the personal thing for me. He'd given me a job at Middlesbrough years ago. He gave me the opportunity to work with him. I worked with him and Colin Todd an awful lot, even though I was the youth team coach. He took me out to football matches to teach me how to spot players. I used to go every Friday when we lived in, because we both were in digs up there for quite some time. So we used to go to football matches instead of being stuck in your digs overnight and stuff like that. So I went a long way with Bruce, who taught me an awful lot. And I was thinking, ooh, you know, I actually thought, well, I'm thinking, no, he knows more than me. You know, so I had to really concentrate hard. And when we were 2-0 down at one stage, I remember thinking, oh, crikey, he's got me. But no, I think Dwight was massively important on that night. He boosted my morale and belief a little bit more. The 2-2 was a great result, really. And it gave us an opportunity to play to our strengths, even though we were at home. You know, we genuinely didn't give much away. I think after that result away from home, my belief in what we were going to do or could achieve sort of jumped up a few notches, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a tough game away at Highbury, at the old Highbury Stadium, and always such a tough place to go. But we gave them a bloody good game, and it was a really good game, to be fair. And it was a proper ding-dong affair, but you know, to come away with a 2-2 draw was a great result for us. Yeah,
obviously the white goals in them days.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of them. When you get drawn Arsenal and away first leg, it's like, oh flipping heck. Like you say, with Blues and Leeds in the other semi as well, it could have been a slightly easier game. No, the two legs, I thought we were excellent, and yeah, got by Arsenal in the end.
No, it's just weird because I'd only been in professional football for like 2 years, 3 years, I think.
and I'd played at Wembley like that. This was going to be my 4th time playing at Wembley, and you know what I mean. I played in the playoffs for Port Vale, played in the what was the Autoglass Trophy at the time, which we won at Wembley in my first season of professional football, and then playing in the Coca-Cola after watching it a couple of years before. I was at Port Vale at the time, went down with all my mates, and it's a brilliant day, wasn't it? When you know, masterstroke of Graham Fenton and all that kind of stuff, and you just have dreams of going there as a player again, and to go there and win with Villa is just a dream come true, basically.
It is the fairy tale.
Yeah.
Literally the fairy tale.
My whole Villa career was a fairy tale, really, and you couldn't have written it any better. But to go there on the day and beat Leeds the way we did. I have Leeds supporters now that I've bumped into, and like, you broke my heart, you broke my heart, and we have a bit of banter and everything. But to come away with the respect that we did because of the way we played, even from the opposition fans, was fantastic.
I remember because everybody was saying, oh, we've got to stay in this side of London, we need because of the traffic, and I'm saying, no, I want to go the other side of London because there's a hotel there that we used to go to when I played, and I love that hotel, and I can't remember what its name is, but I know it's in Croydon, which is the wrong side of London to go to get to Wembley. And I told the staff and everything, no, I want to go to for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the hotel, but we used to go there for golf things. Ron Saunders would take us there mid-season for a golf day and things like that, and I loved going there, and I felt really comfortable. It had snooker tables, so the lads we went 3 days before the final itself and let the lads have a bit of fun.
And tried to keep your routine pretty much the same as what you would do for any other game. Although, you know, you are like racked with nerves. You know, people don't realise how nervous you get before these games. You always have nerves before any game, but to be going to Wembley when you're knowing that, you know, all your family's coming and all your mates are coming, and the eyes of the world are going to be on this game, you know, just that walkout. You know, now the walkout's different. You always used to walk from the one end of the stadium all the way through to the centre, and just having that walk and taking in the atmosphere was unbelievable.
So it was crazy, really. I mean, we'd beaten Leeds only about 3 or 4 weeks before that, 3-0. We lost to them earlier in the season. I know that, I remember this now. This is feeding my brain back again. We lost early in the season to them. We beaten them 3-0 at Villa Park in February, I think it was. And I thought, that might influence them a little bit as to what they might do, because we were really doing well at that time. Howard was under a little bit more pressure than that. I think that those sort of things were around as well. And John tells me this story all the time. He keeps saying that Howard sent somebody to watch us train. Yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know whether it's true or not, but we were just having a bit of a laugh and a joke and enjoying ourselves. We were ready for the game. I think in preparation for a game, I've never been so relaxed in my life. I've never seen a team that I've managed so relaxed in their life, to the point that we were playing little five-a-side games, and people we put the kit man in goal and things like that. You know, we were just messing around and having a great laugh, and then having a game of snooker at night time, and we knew what we had to do. And then when we saw their team, they tried to replicate us. They'd fallen right into our trap. You know, they tried to play the 3 centre-backs. They tried to play the same system as us because we'd recently beaten them. I don't think I've ever felt so confident about a game in my life as when honestly, I I was happy where I'd done my own little thing. Awkward Brian had got his own way again. He'd upset everybody. But all the police and the motorcycle, we had like 4 or 5 police motorcycles taking us through. And I used to ride motorbikes in them days. And I was talking to them and they were going, "What are you doing this to us for?" I said, "Well, I'm only testing you. I'm going to be sitting at the front of the bus and I'm going to watch it and I'm going to give you marks out of 10 when we get to Wembley." They were great. There was no... there wasn't an ounce of fear or anything in any of our systems. No, we were totally ready for it, honestly.
It's massively different when you're standing there side by side with the teams, and royalty's coming out and shaking your hand, and the stadium is packed, and you're looking around and you're just thinking to yourself, "I've got to play well today, got to play well today," and that's all you're thinking about, is that you want to do your best and play well, and take that trophy home. It just hits you in your chest, and it's. The realisation of how big the game is starts to kick in when you do the before you're getting changed and stuff. You go out on the pitch and you're walking and you're looking around Wembley Stadium, and you realise how big it is as well, and how many people are going to be there.
And the historic moments that have happened in that.
Yeah.
World Cup win.
Yep, you're not wrong. But no, then to settle down and to go out and play as well as we did was brilliant.
I don't think I've ever been to a football match that I felt more confident in. Seriously, and that's certainly true. Even when we played Peterborough, we were so ready for that game. And when we'd won, it was brilliant. The lads, they're a great set of lads. And I remember, Doug come into the dressing room. "Right, lads, we can go anywhere in the world," he said, "for a holiday." And they all went, "Magaluf." And I'm like, what? So we ended up in Magaluf's. I'm thinking somewhere really exotic, And they're all going, "Magaluf, Chairman, Magaluf." And we ended up going to Magaluf to celebrate. It was like not my cup of tea at all, It was brilliant. It was a great day. He had that in him. He scored a lot of simpler goals, missed a few simpler, but he was in that mood. He was in the right mood, right place at the right time. He was capable of doing that. I think we didn't really see as much of that as we should have done, but he was always in the right place. He was in right places to put them in. When he scored a goal, he was normally very confident, and it gave him a boost. Savo's goal was a great goal, and again, I can still see Ian running around the outside of him now, because Tails and he just opens this massive gap, and the defender's under pressure then, and he's just rifled it in, and it's dipped as well. Had a bit of everything. So it was the perfect goal.
Watching that goal, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, I was saying, "Savo, pass it." I wanted him to slip me in, but it ended up being a nice decoy run. I cut in on his right, and which enabled, because the defender then thinks he's going to pass it to me and gives him the room. Well, to be fair, he didn't even need the room, and he stuck it in the top corner. But loads of people won money on that. The Savo first goal. Because people that tell me now and say, "Oh, he won me some money on that day." But yeah, it's a great strike. Totally unexpected, but it's a great strike.
Just what you needed, wasn't it?
Yeah, settled everybody down. And to be fair, when that's gone in, you just thought, we ain't losing this game.
I think they probably did more talking than me, to be honest. Gregor would be up and down having a little bit of a laugh and a joke. We were in the zone. We were in the zone. I didn't have to say anything. I knew we could win. I would say, right, top of our list would always have been, don't give them anything. Don't let them enjoy this. Do not let them enjoy this game. Keep moving, keep playing, keep running. Don't change your game plan. I think, you know, the modern game today sees it different. People will see a team scoring a goal and then possession base is part of it. I think that team I had, we believe we could play strong. The centre backs were fantastic, but we also believed we could score goals, and you know we did. So it was all about, you know, get another goal. You know, don't sit back, don't stop, don't slow the game down. They're not enjoying this. We were miles better than them on the day. I don't know. They seem, you know, you say this many times. It's sort of very popular saying, isn't it? They froze on the day, but they really did. But I think it was more the fact that we were just right there. We were right on blob at the time, just ready for the game. The game was perfect for us, and we deserved it. You know, we'd been good all season.
Yeah, righties crossed in from the left. Radibi's made a meal of the clearance, and you know when it's coming out of the sky, and I'm thinking to myself, it's coming down on my left. Shall I have a go? And I just thought, yeah, why not?
Did you get a good connection?
Not the best connection, to be fair.
Well, it was
because it's come off me, my shin. It's sort of the top of my ankle. It didn't roll down, but it's sort of top of my ankle, half my shin. But I got a good contact on it.
I'm not going to say Ian shinned one in because I get on too well with Ian now. But he did it. Listen, he just could go from one end of the pitch to the other. He was just amazing. And he loved that. You know, this was from this kid who supported Villa to be in that game was just brilliant for him. So we're really pleased about that.
And it's gone right in the corner. Yeah, it just brings back great memories.
Well, it is. You know, you're 2-0 up, and everyone will always say in football, 2-0 up is probably the most dangerous situation that you Premier League has, because if they get one, they get really lifted up. So you want to get your third goal, and that was again something that we often talked about. You know, go for the extra one. You know, and I think sometimes in certain games when you're 2-0 up, we would say, look, that you know. It can be uncomfortable, so go for that third one. Don't switch off. Don't start taking the pace out of the game. We used to love playing it with that tempo. We had young people, a lot of young lads in that team who could run all day. You know, they were terrific athletes. You know, the two wing backs, great athletes. Hugo, oh, bless him, he is incredible man. McGrath, wow, what can you say? I mean, if you wanted someone to defend for you, he would just be the one. And Gareth was just so far ahead of things, you know, and not surprised me where he's gone to in his life, because he just was clever. We didn't have to say I'm clever. He didn't have to. He just did it. He just read the game so well, and they were pushed by Townsend, who was fantastic on the day. Fantastic. He was what a captain needs to be on a final day for him. It was a brilliant day for him.
And then the last goal, it just showed you how confident Savo was, because he's rolled it over his foot and then just nonchalantly knocked it to Yorkie.
And then when you go further on to the last one where he's moving his feet over the ball and then just slipping it to the side with a perfect weighted pass. I always say those passes, the perfectly weighted pass, which is, you know, within 10 yards, anything less than 10 yards is you have to weight it in properly. You can knock a ball 50 yards and it looks great.
And then it looks great going off the bar, doesn't it? But it's a great finish. But it just topped off a really, really good day and performance. And Yorkie was on fire that season as well, and it just topped off. And you forget that this was in bloody March. So I can't even say it topped off a good season, because it's in March, it's so early when the finals played.
No, I think I've watched this game so many times, but I'll still be going, concentrate, think. After every goal, that would be me. Concentrate, think. Because the worst thing in the world, and it's a very common phrase, you know, that's when you're at your most vulnerable, the first few minutes after scoring a goal. And it was still an old phrase with me, and it stuck with me. You know, when you score, You don't let them score straight away. You don't think that, oh, we've done this. No, that's when you go right into them and stop them and make it hard for them. Don't go that way, go that way.
All the energy that you'd put into the game, just mentally as well, you just think, oh, you know, we've done it. Do you know what I mean? And you're just mentally and physically shattered. But and then you have to go up all them steps to get the trophy, because people don't realise how many steps there are as well. But no, that was a great feeling as well, being at the top of those steps and lifting the trophy and having the trophy passed back to you and all our fans. It was just a culmination of all the hard work, and the best thing is, like, I just knew all my mates were there, and you know, and I was buzzing to see all them afterwards, and my family and stuff, and make history. Do you know what I mean? We made history, and that's one of the biggest things, that you're part of Aston Villa's history.
Forever.
And yeah, and your name's going to be there forever. You know, scoring in that cup, scoring and playing in that cup final, and one of the best things is, like, people still come up to you and talk about it and say they were there on that day, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
I don't know how to answer that, to be honest. You know, I mean, I think because of what happened to me, because at 26 I never played football anymore. To win it as a manager really gives me some sort of I don't know what the word is, but it gives me some sort of, like, happiness about, well, at least I still stayed in the game, and at least I still, and I've won something again, you know, and which is nice. Which was the best part of my life, playing football, without a doubt. Loved playing football. But I used to say to people just before I retired, because I still played a few games, even though I was in absolute bits. And my knee, there was no surgery clever enough to fix that at that time. Not that they could, I suppose, I don't know. But when I got injured at first, and then I started making comebacks, and I'd play the odd game, and then I'd have a week's rest, then I'd play the odd game and have 2 weeks rest, then I'd play the odd game and have 3. And I used to say and they say, oh, you can still play, don't worry. And I'm saying, you can't feel what's going on inside my body. You know, I can't do this. It's absolutely killing me. So I think when I was actually told to pack in, I think it was almost a relief, you know. There is something desperately wrong in there. There isn't anything we can physically or do about it now. 20 odd years on, 30 years on, your cruciates can be sorted out. Back in those days, you know, it was a finisher, on straightforward, no go, nothing else. So I think to have gone on and won it as a manager, and stay in the game as a manager, and have, when I look at especially my Darlington and Leicester and Aston Villa days were brilliant, really. And it helps to just take that little bit of pain away, to be honest, you know. I think if I'd never played again and I'd never managed or coached, if I hadn't walked in to meet Tony Barton the day he got the job at Villa, if I hadn't met Tony Barton that day and I never got the youth team job, I don't know what I'd have done today. So fate almost turned on its own head and opened another door for me, because I was in the right place at the right time. But I worked hard as a coach, you know. I worked hard to coach things and make things work. And this was the absolute pinnacle, really. You know, I'd love to have done it again, but foolishly I left later on, didn't I? But it's great for me. There's not many of us have won it as a player and a manager of the same team. There's one or two, quite a few have won it as a player and then gone on management and somewhere else won it. So I'm quite happy with that stat. It gives me a little bit of comfort.
the game's changed. Well, the game had changed, but I think now, you know, you've got all the bigger teams wanting to win this trophy again. You look at this year's final and you see who's in it, and it's the top 2 teams in the country at the moment. So I don't think people are underestimating it anymore, and it's an important, because there's not many trophies you can win, is there? So you might as well try and win something.
Yeah.
So
We've come close, you know.
yeah. We've had our moments, but you need that little bit of luck as well. The right draw. I think we got the right draw that year regarding teams that we got. You know, but you need that luck. But then you got to get to the final and win it and perform on the day, and we did. It's
really quite difficult. Football has changed an awful lot, and there are certain teams that are expected to win something every year, which doesn't help, because generally speaking, there's one of those few teams who get to finals and stuff like that. But I think we've hit the bar, haven't we, a few times. And I remember even probably the one that sticks out to me more than anything else was when we lost in a semi-final to Bradford. I remember that year, and I think Swansea won it. Swansea won and I was thinking, we lost to Bradford, and I was just so convinced we were going to win a competition that day. We've hit the bar. We've been very close. We've been in finals. I don't know what people would think that what I think. I want us to win. I genuinely want us to win again. This club, it means so much to me. I've been there for years and years and years. Been to watch the finals, and perhaps I should stay away. I don't know. I just love. It would be brilliant, and it's not because of 30 years or anything else, and I can sit here with a big smile on my face gloating. I'm not. I genuinely want the team to win. We've got an incredible manager at the moment, and he has got us as close. My good friend John Gregory got to the final of the FA Cup, wasn't it? And that was disappointing, because I'd loved JG to have done something like that as well. But I like everyone else, I'm blown away by Unai. He's incredible, and I think it would just be really nice if he could be the one who could win a competition for us, a major one.
Hopefully. I think, again, there's the teams that are in it, there's no one to be scared of. So we've navigated the games pretty well up to now. Even though we've had injuries and whatnot, manager's been able to juggle the team around, and he's got vast experience in this competition as well. So we couldn't have a better manager to do that. So I've got high hopes of doing something serious in this competition.
Of course it could. Why not? Why not? Our major problem right now is our injury situation, but the team itself on any given day,
all the ingredients are there. Hopefully we'll get some of those lads back in the next few weeks. But we've got a great opportunity, I think, But now it's just balancing, the league and the Europa League, and seeing where we can get to.
How many other teams have beaten Man City and Arsenal in a season? So we can. I think it's a great opportunity. I'm not saying we will, but I think we've got a great opportunity, and I wish the manager and the players all the best. I genuinely want to be there when they do it as well.
Fantastic. That's it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Ian Taylor, signing off.
Ta-da.